You know what? I really like Infinity War. I know it's got its problems, but I find it an emotionally thrilling watch every single time. My heart still pounds during certain scenes, even though I know what's going to happen. And I know that has something to do with the fact that we know they haven't really killed off Black Panther and Spider-Man, but doesn't that kind of make it all the more impressive? With the next Avengers movie upon us, theories for Endgame and Lamentations of Infinity War have been all over my feed recently. One of the latter that I keep seeing is anger at the relationship between Thanos and Gamora, specifically how Thanos murders Gamora and calls it love. Because it isn't love. Right?
What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me.
Okay. I talked about this exact topic last year in my Infinity War spoiler review, and I feel the same way as I did then, but I wanted to dig a bit deeper into it this time around. Let's just make it easy on ourselves and work with the assumption that the outcome of the Soul Stone scene isn't a fluke. For the record, I don't think it is. I believe that Thanos does love Gamora. Regardless of how you personally feel about that idea, let's explore what that means if that's true. First, I think we need to figure out what love is.
I wanna know what love is. No! What the hell?
Love is an emotion. It's an intense or deep affection for someone or something. That's all. While the intensity of the emotion itself certainly plays a role, I think the common refrain that love is complicated speaks less to any universal truth and more to how we romanticize love itself. I can't speak with certainty about other cultures, but Americans think of love in a very different way than they do any other emotion. We, what's the word? Right. And a lot of this is due to Western media's obsession with love, particularly romantic love. Obviously, this isn't the kind of relationship that Gamora and Thanos have, but it still applies. Some of these ideas that appear in media over and over again have seen some very vocal pushback in the last decade or so. The double standard regarding invasive behavior is a good one, wherein the lead gets away with treating their love interest in a variety of awful ways, ranging from rude to ha 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 ha, call the cops now, please. And it's considered romantic because it's all done in the name of love.
Okay, fine, I'll go out with you.
A lot of people are rightfully concerned about the kind of message this rom-com staple sends, that abusive behaviors are actually a sign of true, passionate romance, or are an ideal to strive for. Normalizing this kind of behavior as love makes people much more likely to not recognize abuse when they encounter it, and they're more likely to stay in toxic relationships. This behavior is unhealthy, and it gets people, mostly women, killed. But the argument I often hear in these conversations about representations of love in media is, this isn't love. That toxic, abusive, manipulative behavior is not real love. And that's where I think those people are wrong. The problem with this argument is that it's founded on the same assumption that allows the rom-com double standard to exist in the first place. Is terrible behavior done for love excusable? Or is terrible behavior done for love not real love? These are just two different interpretations of the same principle, that love is both an inherently good thing and an indication of morality. And this is the logic used to arrive at the conclusion that Thanos did not really love Gamora because he was abusive. But by confirming that he does really love her in the film, it not only validates his expression of it, but also implies that he isn't really such a monster. This is absolutely the wrong way to think about love. Does Thanos really love Gamora? Yes. But who cares? As if that fact makes what he does and has done to her any better. As if it makes the years of psychological and physical abuse okay. Why is this a serious question? Why could that possibly matter when it's so clear that the way he treats her is abusive? When it comes to relationships, even abusive ones, we put way too much stock in love as an irrefutable explanation. There's a certain amount of morality that we as a society assign to all emotions. Generally, we think of joy, gratitude, and excitement as good emotions, and sadness, fear, and anger as bad emotions. If you feel the bad emotions too often, it reflects poorly on you. Inside Out would not have been as unique a film as it was if we did not believe that happy is good and sad is bad. There's also a strict performative aspect. You have to act right in order to have your emotions taken seriously. Lots of people have their depression and/or anxiety brushed off because their every moment isn't spent sobbing on the floor in the fetal position. These assumptions hurt all of us, but especially mentally ill and neurodiverse communities. And yet, there is an extent to which we recognize that behavior doesn't prove or determine the validity of emotion. We believe that people can experience happiness without smiling, sadness without crying, and anger without violence. But I don't think love is given any room for that kind of complexity. Love is thought of as a superior emotion, and our standards for it are ridiculously high. People like to say they're not, but for those of us who are wont to do the romance and the sex on people, we have certain hopes and expectations, and there's nothing wrong with that. Some people want a ton of daffodils, and others want to a fish god. But the daffodils and the fish god don't have to come right now. I mean, they could come later on in that relation. I'm getting off topic. The fish god isn't the point. That's all fine. The problem is that so often people really feel that if they don't encounter those things, it's not genuine love, or it's not the right relationship, because love is supposed to be this perfect, dazzling fantasy. Anything less than that feels fake, or a letdown at the very least. I think that's why we're so vehement that abusive behavior isn't real love. We think of love with such intrinsic goodness that toxicity existing alongside it feels like an endorsement rather than, oh, I don't know, a sign that love isn't evidence of virtue. Maybe. That it's just another emotion, no better than any other. Personally, I think emotions themselves are morally neutral. Morality is determined by choice and action, not by the existence or lack of emotion itself, which is largely out of one's control. And the idea that an inability to feel automatically makes a person immoral isn't just ableist rhetoric used to dehumanize people, which it is. It also completely ignores the agency that people who actually do immoral things have in a given situation.
It is not our abilities that show what we truly are. It is our choices.
I'm not trying to convince you that you shouldn't be angry about Gamora's death in Infinity War. The writers participated in that time-honored narrative tradition of hurting women in order to make great, flawed men feel things. Maybe this wouldn't be as bad if we lived in a world where women aren't the majority of those murdered by an abuser, but we don't. And I don't think you're wrong to be upset by that. I also don't think that the films encourage the audience to excuse what Thanos does to both Gamora and Nebula. The Guardians films resist putting the trauma of their younger selves on display with flashbacks, despite the fact that it would be much easier and entertaining to show these events, instead opting for scenes where the characters discuss their trauma with each other. Though it is pretty entertaining to watch them work through it by hurling spaceships at each other. The long-lasting effect this abuse had on Gamora and Nebula, who are now grown up, is the primary focus, not Thanos' feelings or motivations as an abuser. He isn't the one who matters. They are. Even with Thanos being the protagonist of Infinity War, I think writers Marcus and McFeely are very clear about the fact that Thanos is an abusive father and not a good person. Even if I do think that Thanos' plan needed to be criticized in the film more than it was.
I love how Zoe reacts to this moment where she believes that she's killed him. It's really powerful.
And murdered her abuser.
There's really only one time in Infinity War where Thanos ever gets close to defending his abuse with love. Probably because he's too self-assured to feel the need to explain himself.
Everything I hid about myself, he taught me.
And in doing so, made you the fiercest woman in the galaxy.
Oh, well in that case, Dad, thanks! A relationship, any relationship, doesn't stop being one because it is toxic or abusive. It's just an abusive relationship. Love is the same way. And the relationship that Thanos and Gamora have is abusive, but affection and love still exist in it. These things exist together. I was in an abusive relationship with someone for a very long time. I remember when I wholeheartedly believed what Gamora did, that it wasn't real love. I don't think that anymore. With hindsight and distance, I realized that that belief itself contributed to my staying as long as I did. Because when I thought the reason I shouldn't be around him was because he didn't actually love me. All I had to be convinced of to give him another chance was that he did. And the cycle would start again. Here's a not fun thing. I loved him, and I think he did love me. And I'll never really know. I used to really want to know with absolute certainty. And now I don't care. Because at some point I realized that the answer to that question didn't matter. And it never should have mattered. Our relationship was toxic. Knowing if he loved me wouldn't change that. I'm not arguing this idea so you'll give abusers the benefit of the doubt. I just want you to know what I wish I'd known. That love doesn't make a person or a relationship good. And in a broader, more timely and dangerous political sense, banality or relatability should not make you question the harm they inflict on other people. We all want to think that we can never be or become that person, but the truth is, we can. It's very important to remember that. And that's what's so terrifying about Thanos. Thanos isn't a threat of what a lack of empathy, love, and concern for the world can do to us. He's a reminder that the presence of those things can be just as dangerous as the absence. That when you are so sure of yourself that you refuse to listen to other people, your impact can be devastating. That love itself is not enough, it's how you express it. He's a reminder that just because you might see reflections of yourself in him, doesn't mean he can't possibly be a monster. Thanks for watching.